Hi everyone, it's Niamh here and welcome to our art journaling channel. Today we're going to be playing around with some of the new releases from Dina Wakley and creating some interactive turning elements for our journal. So I'm starting off making the turning element for my journal page, and I'm using the round stencil from Dina. This is a new one, but just a round shape, and that's going to be my turning element. I'm just finding the center point and creating my four quadrants for my turning circle. Now you'll notice as I'm turning this in a clockwise position, I'm always putting the face of the moon um, facing the right way up, if that makes sense. So you can see that they've sort of changed shape. The moons are also part of the new vintage Dina Wakley stamps that have just been released. So I suppose this is what inspired it, because I wanted the different phases of the moon on my page and I want to be able to flip around them. So once I've got the moons glued down, I'm just painting the background black, night. I probably should have done that first. That would have been easier. I'd pre-stamped my images just to stick on. You could obviously stamp them straight onto the page as well, up to you. I just found it easier to have them pre-stamped and stick them on. This is the new ledger journal, which I'm working in. I really want to keep the background of the ledger paper, so I've just watered down my excess paint and made it really, really light in the background, because I want to sort of have this transparent galaxy-ish type background. I'm going in to my palette with some of the sterling and gilt gloss sprays to create a bit of a shimmery effect over the top. So this is just going to give that shimmery moon effect in the background. I actually decided I was going to paint over the entire turning circle element with the sterling, and you can see as it dries, it just gives that really pearlescent effect. You don't see the silvery color too much. It just gives a really beautiful pearlescent effect over the entire piece and gives it a bit of a sheen. To add a little bit of color to my moons, I'm going in with the gilt and adding a little bit of shading and light onto the elements as well. I decided, because I really love the pearlescent effect in the background and I had so much poured out, that I would put it over the top of my page as well. So you can sort of see that coming through. You just get that gorgeous pearlescent effect. It also makes it really interesting to do the following, where I'm going to drip down once I get the my pages open, some of the gloss sprays onto my page. So because the page has basically been sealed now, it's just going to make really cool effects in the background, because the gloss spray isn't going to immediately sink into the paper, which I really, really like. So I can sort of move it around. Um, Obviously I put some water on it too, so it's quite watery. It will take a little bit to dry, so just be patient. I am not fairy, so I use my heat gun on it. I know that's probably not the preferred version. Please be aware that obviously acrylic inks, acrylic paints are a type of plastic, so you need to work in a well ventilated area. Um, but yeah, I'm just really impatient, and so impatient that I just sort of sponged off the end. So I'm starting to build up this really cool sort of almost galaxy-ish type background. I decided I want to put some straight paint in here as well, so I'm going in with a little bit of marine and night and just use my fingers to rub it in. So the great thing about building up these glazes over the top is I can still see that text underneath, which I really, really like. Finally, I'm going in and covering everything in the kitchen sink with a splatter of the gilt, the gold, to create my sort of starry background. So once again, that's all dry. I then need to kind of work out how this is all going to work. So I'm using the stamp. This is a moon stamp, to cut out my element, and just sort of planning where it is on the page. So using my craft knife, just going in very, very carefully and cutting out around it. Obviously, please put a cutting mat behind it. Really, really important. once I'd finished that, I am just going through and colouring in the edge black. Now, it's not necessary. I just like having that black edge on anything that I've got cut out. The other thing that's really important if you're doing a turning element is to cut out the little turning circle near to where you're going to be, so it can turn as you go. So I quite liked how that was looking. When I'd cut it out, it was mostly in the right shape. I was actually quite surprised, but there was just a little gap when it turned. So at the end, you'll see me add a little bit of extra color. So I decided I want to put an image on this, and I went through with my pencil and sketched it out, which I forgot to turn on my camera. So then I'm going in with my black pen and sort of re-sketching over the top of it. So I wanted this sort of whimsical-ish girl on the page looking up at the moon. With my black Posca pen, I'm being pretty sketchy with it, adding in a little bit of extra detail. I decided I want to add in a little bit of paint, so to her eyes, onto her cheeks and lips, just add a little bit of color, but really I want to leave it as plain as possible, just so that it sort of had the ethereal pearlescent effect that the paint from the background had as well. Adding in a little bit of shading using the fuchsia color, obviously adding in the whites of the eyes and just whiting out that just to make the eyes a little bit of a focus on the page. I'm also adding in some white highlights into the hair and so on, which for some reason in real life you could see a lot clearer than you can on screen. I think it's because of the pearlescence. Just to push that figure out from the background, again, I'm making almost a glaze with my night paint, adding a lot of water to it and just creating that shadow. So you can see that sort of pushes that paler skin from the figure out by creating the shadow in the background. I also decided I wanted just to add in a little bit of extra text. So I'm using one of the Dina Wakley stamps from ages ago to do that. So finally, I'm putting in my little turning element here just to see if it works. And I'm trying to find my split pins, which took a little bit of finding. So I got distracted, and then I went on to finding a quote to put onto the page. Now, with the new vintage stamps that Dina has, the vintage moon stamps, there's some gorgeous quotes, but I actually wanted something to relate to this image a little bit better. So I know nothing with certainty, but the sight of the moon does something, makes me dream. And I thought that was a really nice quote to have on the top. So once I've written it out with my white pen, I'm just going back and thickening up the letters just a little. I want it to be quite sketchy and quite thin, to look kind of whimsical and fit in with the picture down below. But I also wanted to stand out a little bit more than it did on the page. I'm really loving the pearlescent look of the page and how you can see the ledger paper from underneath, especially when you do a close-up of it. But particularly with white on top of it, it can be a little bit tricky for the eye to focus on it. So just having that little bit of thickness to the letters helps to push it out from the background a little bit better. You don't need to use white to do your lettering, but I just, on this page, thought that that lightness on the page was really important. So once I've finished thickening up my letters, I will go back and do a drop shadow on my lettering as well. I find that's really important to help the background stick out a little bit more. So I've got my alcohol pen in a warm grey that I will use. So the reason I really like using the alcohol pen to do my drop shadows is obviously the ink is translucent, and it means that it gives me that true shadow, but you can still see the background through it. So it is pushing it out from the background, but you can still see what's underneath it. And again, with the pearlescent paint underneath, just makes it sort of really sparkly and stick out, which is lovely. So once I've finished this, you can see I found my split pins. and it's just trying to work out how to do it. I would probably suggest don't do like I did. Actually, put this turning element in first, so you can kind of write around around it instead of putting your split pin through the middle of a letter. But it worked. So because it's kind of a darker color, it worked. It sort of blended in, didn't stick out like a sore thumb, which I was quite pleased about. I just put a little bit of blue paint behind. I put a little bit of gold on the turning circle section just so it popped out a little bit more. And I'm using some of Dina's amazing new glue to glue down my page. So I highly, highly, highly suggest getting that glue. It's just amazing. It glues everything, transparent, sees paper. It's just been my workhorse since I've got it. So really good. I've just written a little note on the turning circle to write turn here, just to remind people so that they do actually know it's an interactive element. You can obviously see all the ledger paper peeking through the glazing over the top. You can see the cut image with the stamps in it. That's where the little split pin goes in. And here is a video of the actual element turning, which is very badly videoed. I apologize because I was trying to hold it with one hand. But this is the finished page. So much fun. Obviously, you can adapt this technique to so many different things, birthday cards, scrapbook pages, whatever you've got. But the fundamental element works the same. So I hope you have fun trying out creating an interactive element for your pages. And until next time, bye for now.